In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Patrick to hopefully relive my childhood as we chat all about the Wizards and the 80s. I'm so excited. After that, we'll see what's on Kickstarter Corner. But first, a brief message about our sponsors. This episode is proudly powered by Jack Sporner and his Dungeons of Infinity that will be on Kickstarter through this Thursday at 8:52 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So don't dilly-dally in backing this one. We'll chat more about it during Kickstarter Corner. This episode is powered by 60 Second Chef. Quick to learn, easy to play, and super fun. Plus, it'll help us get veggies in front of our kids on the tabletop. Who said they had to be edible? Want to know more? Go listen to my interview with one of the designers now on episode 255, which was Wednesday on Saturday, 60 Second Chef. 60 Second Chef will be on Kickstarter through Friday the 22nd of March. This episode is powered by The Great Nameless, a game of divine might and cosmic horror. Sibling gods declare war on each other, while their mindless progenitor threatens to destroy all of creation. 1 to 4 players. Catch our interview with Josh in their update entitled The Great Nameless, featured on podcast Getting Geeky with Game Relief. This episode is powered by the Character Casket, a coffin that holds and includes all of your essentials to be a player in a session of D&D. They're almost halfway to their goal and will be on Kickstarter through Monday, the 15th of April. This episode is also proudly powered by Solar Flare Games. Their latest Robotech Crisis Point has entered production and can now be pre-ordered with some extra pre-order limited edition Robotech items and exclusives just for you. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to my episode entitled Robotech Crisis Point to find out more and pre-order it before they run out. This episode is also brought to you by Heroes of History. For listeners of the show, you can get a 10% rebate by emailing a copy receipt to sam@bradensworld.com, and he'll get you that 10% off. And for the first 10 listeners to leave an Amazon or eBay review of his game, he'll send you an extra 5% rebate as well. This episode is powered by Overbattle, the All War, which launched a Kickstarter yesterday and will be on there through Saturday, the 20th of April. More to be said during Kickstarter Corner.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Hey Marie, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Well, not anymore. Introducing Nightlife, a tabletop RPG where anything is possible, but nothing is guaranteed.
Well, how do I start?
First, you take a character sheet and spend 10 points on your attributes, and 10 on your magical abilities. Then you just pick a couple of your character's personality quirks and their goals, and you're done. It's that easy!
Wow, that was easy!
Well, character creation doesn't end there. Your character's motivations, fears, powers, and even physical form will change over the course of gameplay.
Groovy.
Your character's successes and failures will have a tangible effect on who they are. Everything you do will move your story forward, even if you fail.
Totally bodelicious.
Even death is but a minor setback for your characters.
What?
That's right, and if you donate $15 to the Kickstarter, you'll get the digital rulebook, character sheets, a pre-written adventure and characters, and a thank you note from the creators, absolutely free! But that's not all! If you donate $20, you also get your name in the special thank you section of the rulebook, right at the beginning for everyone to see.
Thanks, Nightlife!
Nightlife is not sold in stores. The creators of Nightlife are not responsible for any lost dice, sexual awakenings, or high-five related injury while playing Nightlife. Look for the Kickstarter on March 18th.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me either, but this is a story of nightlife tabletop game, and today we're lucky enough to be joined by the creator and mastermind of this. Is that correct, Patrick? Is that how you fall in line with nightlife?
Well, in the game, we call the GM position the narrator, so I like to think of myself as that.
Oh, there you go, the narrator of nightlife himself. Thanks so much for joining us on Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf. We really appreciate it, Patrick.
Thanks for having me. I'm really been a large part of the independent community for a bit, mostly just funding other things and playing lesser known games. I'm really happy to just to finally contribute.
Yeah, for sure. Most definitely. Now, before we jump into everything that's great about your game, let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you get into playing tabletop games? And was it just our role playing games or all kinds of tabletop games?
Well, with I think as with many people, I started with Pathfinder, a knockoff of, or not knockoff, a different version of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was actually a session a that I wasn't actually invited to. I,
Oh, you broke in?
yeah, I asked at the last minute if I could join because I'd never done anything like this, and I had been told that afterward we would play video games, and that's why I was really there.
The truth comes out.
And so I rolled up a druid at the last possible moment, and I kind of fell in love with it, and I completely forgot about every other reason I came.
So you didn't get to play that video game after?
No, I don't even like Call of Duty anymore, so it didn't even. It's kind of weird to look back on that.
Oh boy, and been going ever since?
Yeah, at first I played mostly Pathfinder, but then I moved to D&D proper, and then I got introduced to a lot of other games from the 1970s and 80s, the Mutant series, Dark Heresy, Rogue Trader, even old-fashioned war games. Although I only really dabbled in those.
Awesome. And are you still what role playing games are you playing these days?
These days, I've actually been playtesting Nightlife so nonstop that I feel I got sick of it for a little bit. But before that, I was playing a lot of Stars Without Number, and I was playing a lot. I was trying to get my friends into Mutant Year Zero because they finally rebooted that using a bit of the Apocalypse engine, and it's really interesting.
So I've never heard of that one. What can you tell us about that? You call it Mutant Zero, or what is it?
Mutant Year Zero. It's a game that kind of takes the best parts of X-Men and Mad Max and rams them together. And they fit better than you'd expect them to.
Oh wow, that sounds cool.
The idea is that you are a person born with superpowers after the apocalypse, and your superpowers are intrinsically tied to your emotions. So as you enter new heights of emotion, your powers can change and develop. Um, and I guess that's sort of where the inspiration for Nightlife might have come from. The idea of superpowers tied to emotions.
Awesome, sounds cool. Now speaking of nightlife, what can you tell us about that?
Nightlife is a game in which you play as emotionally damaged wizards in the 1980s. In this world, magic isn't created by Harry Potter style genetics or through study, but it comes from surviving a near death experience that you were not fated to survive. Think Final Destination, only instead of a grisly death, you get magic powers.
Oh wow, and yeah, you had me caught on the wizards and especially the '80s because I'm big into the '80s and '90s, and my kids are always teasing me about way back in the 1900s, even though it seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I kind of fell in love with I kind of fell in love with games that were originally made in that time period, and so it was just natural for me that the game would take place in that time period. Although I also did like a lot of urban fantasy literature from Harry Potter to Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, and they kind of had I kind of noticed patterns in them that that Nightlife makes fun of a little bit in some ways.
Oh boy.
Just a smidge. There is an overarching Ministry of Magic kind of deal called the Order. However, the Order is not the best at their job. They're not actually very good at keeping magic a secret from people.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So, and with the 1980s, is there a lot of nostalgia or stuff from the '80s that show up in your game as well?
A lot of little references I've hidden in the game to 1980s movies that I kind of fell in love with. For example, the example combat takes place when a character known as Tiff Bannon calls Martin a turkey, and decides to get in an altercation with him, and that's where the example combat in the combat section is from. Sort of a well, I think a very direct reference to Biff Tannen and Marty McFly calling him a chicken.
Yeah, I was just barely watching part one. Yet, what was it? Sunday night. Yeah, so the other night I was just barely watching that. It's one of my favorite trilogies. I'm hoping they never do a remake of it. I told my wife, but she says probably they will sometime. But I hope not.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Please know that and Ferris Bueller. Please don't touch Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, was there any reference to Ferris Bueller as well in that, or Back to the Future mainly, or what other movies did it touch upon?
I have a little visual reference to The Breakfast Club, but I think that one might be tougher for people to find. I hope, because I kind of tried to hide it pretty deep in there. I wanted to, for a bit, I wanted to create because a lot of the movies that came out in the '80s took place in a town, a fictitious town in Illinois, and I wanted to create um, um, an adventure that took place in that fictionalized Illinois. But as time went on, I realized, no offense to Illinois, but there's not a lot you can cram into a suburb in rural Illinois.
Yeah, for sure. I actually was when I was in the military. We were based there at Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, for a short time, and yeah, have to agree with you from what I saw of it.
And yeah, I mean, no offense to Illinois. I love you guys. I got family out there. But I actually, so many people, when I was playtesting this game, I tried to playtest it with people of different ages and genders and experience levels. And I was surprised how many people would just almost stop mid game and start telling me a story from their childhood. Which at first kind of bugged me because I was like, all right, but I've got this room rented for only like 3 hours. So, but as time went on, I went, why would I ever try to limit that? So one of the Kickstarter benefits is actually, if you donate $100, I will get in contact with you and I will make a module based on your hometown and based on you. And then I will release that for free in about a year's time.
Yeah, I see that here, and it seems like it's actually been pretty popular, I'd have to say, it looks like. Because you just barely launched yesterday. Well, at the time of this recording, it would be 2 days ago, but there's already 3 of the 10 have been snatched up. Am I right?
Yeah, I I'm really happy so many people were so interested in that. A little part of me gets worried every so often, going, "Oh man, I'm going to create 3 different adventure modules already." But then, in less than an hour after thinking that, I'll be like, "I get to create 3 different adventure modules based on real people." Who else can say that?
Yeah, most definitely. That's for sure. Now, were these 3 people, do you have any affiliation with them, or you know them, or they're just people that found the Kickstarter?
The third one I know because I was really close to him when we were young, and I haven't gotten to see him a lot since. And so I'm really excited to, one, get an update on how he's going, and two, get to finally put him to page and immortalize him a little bit because he's a very interesting guy.
Well, there you go. And now, are all 3 of them in the same town? I hope not.
They are in different parts of the world. A couple of them are in San Francisco, and one of them, I'm actually not sure where he is now.
Okay, so you might, and depending on if he's in Illinois, you might end up having to write about Illinois after all.
I've gotten some joking threats from friends and family that I have out there that they're gonna make me do Chicago.
Oh boy, there you go. Awesome. Now, per se, me and you, and probably some other people sat down to play Nightlife Tabletop. How is play gonna look, or what's my turn consist of, and whatnot?
Well, that sort of depends. I decided to split. A lot of games have attributes that are mostly for social situations, obviously, and attributes that are mostly for combative situations. And I ran into that, and I said, well, why not double dip? And so every attribute has an effect in combat and also has an effect in a social situation. And they might not necessarily be one for one. For example, there is an attribute called body in game, and body dictates, one, how well you can take getting hit by a physical object, and two, it also dictates how intimidating you are because they're both intrinsically tied to each other. Now, there are a couple of attributes in game that are directly tied to one or the other and don't double dip into both. But some of the attributes are both social and combative.
Okay, so how would one of those look?
Well, for example, one attribute is guile,
And guile is about your own ability to deceive people socially, but it's also your own attribute that kind of dictates uh, knowing when not to get hit, because those things kind of go hand in hand. You kind of have to be reading people. And so in combat, you can use guile not to get hit by a ranged weapon. It dictates your ability not to get shot or not to get a baseball, not to get hit with a baseball. Obviously, those things are not equal. And also outside of situations, it kind of deals with your sleight of hand.
Okay, and what kind of adventures are they? Like, where's the bad guys? Because we're in the '80s. How's that look?
Well, I noticed with a lot of 1980s games that came out, whether it's like Cyberpunk 2077 or I think um, Early Mutant was there too, a lot of them were pretty anti-authority, and that kind of makes sense with the culture of the time too. A lot of the movies that came out around that time had the characters struggling against some kind of authority too. Even Ferris has his principal.
Yeah.
So the Order is kind of a central antagonist to the game in that they are trying to curb your ability to use your. Well, they're trying to stop you from revealing your magic to other people. But it is outright stated that they don't use all of their resources on you to begin with because they have much worse things that take precedent over you. And some of those things are creatures that have existed in our own mythology, and some of those things are godlike beings that have existed in our own mythology. So while while you might be trying to raise the dead out somewhere in Illinois, for example, and they would probably love to stop you from doing that, um, there might be a rebellion of minotaurs out in Greece, or there might be the African god Anansi trying to awaken somewhere in Central Africa, and those things obviously take more precedent.
When combats, like with Pathfinder and stuff, because I used to listen to a podcast where they role play Pathfinder and stuff, and they had a bunch of like whenever they roll the dice, they had like all these modifiers and stuff. Does your game consist of that? Like if I roll a 10, it's not really a 10.
It's actually a dice pool system, so you actually roll a series of dice, kind of like a Vampire the Masquerade or um, I think Apocalypse World does something similar, where your attribute dictates how many six-sided dice you're rolling. And so when, for example, somebody rolls to shoot you, let's say somebody pulls a gun, they're going to be rolling for their wit attribute to dictate how to use a ranged weapon. And you are going to be rolling for guile to, get out of the way. And if you roll higher with your guile attribute, then you won't be shot. And if you roll lower, then I'm sorry to tell you, you've been hit.
Oh, okay. And I thought I saw something or read something. No, it was in your video about not dying, or what was that?
Ooh, this I'm really excited by because it always trips people out at first. I like in games, there have been a lot of situations where you try to pull the heist in D&D, like you're trying to steal from a dragon, and your original plan was to escape down a mine shaft, and then you fast forward one session, and suddenly you and your dwarf friend, who are the only ones who survived so far, are rolling at breakneck speeds down a mountain while the dragon chases after you. You're still succeeding, but probably not in the way you planned on it. So I designed the game and a lot of its systems to be what I like to call a powder keg full of cotton candy, where it is easy to fail, but you'll be failing forward. There's no state in the game where you have to go back and roll the same thing, where say you roll to deceive someone and you fail, the narrator doesn't go, well, all right, you failed at lying to them, but you can roll to lie to them again. Instead, there's always going to be a reaction to something you do. And death works the same way, where if you die, you're not put into a fail state necessarily. When you die, you meet with Death himself, and who is a sentient thing in this universe, and he'll roll on and you can pick from either a death flaw, which is some piece of death that you've taken back with you in life as you've come back to life, or you can choose a death goal, and that is something where Death tells you, I'm going to let you live if you can perform this task for me before the break of dawn. And that's kind of the slightly more risky one, but it's also the less permanent option. If you take a death flaw, excuse me, if you take a death flaw, you might get some issue like, from now on I have to start conflict with a certain magical creature if I see one, and if I don't, I'll be pulled back into the underworld. And that's, less urgent than a death goal, but it is something that will stick with you for a while. But if you take a death goal, death might say, all right, before the sun comes up, I need you to knock a friend unconscious for whatever reason. Now, that's a little bit more of an explosive response, but once you do that, you're done.
And does anybody else know the missions that you're given by death, or is that just between you and your narrator?
In gameplay, only the actual player knows, only the character who's just died knows what mission they've received. But obviously, if you're sitting around a group with a bunch of friends, I'm not going to lie, unless the narrator runs around the table and whispers in your ear, then they're going to know.
Now, my favorite part when I stumbled upon your Kickstarter video, when I stumbled upon your Kickstarter was actually the Kickstarter video. It reminded me of one of those infomercials that I'd stay up late at night to watch, or just be up late at night when I was a kid and watch them. What can you tell us about the whole thing with that? I loved your Kickstarter video.
Oh, thank you so much. I had a couple. My partner is a wonderful camera person, and so she was the director of photography for this project. I wrote out the script after watching, I think, almost 3 hours of infomercials.
Oh, there you go.
It was so ground into my brain by that point. And then I contacted another friend named Kennedy Cartwright, who is the actor in the film. She's the one on the left, the one without the neon eyeliner. And I said, like, hey, I really want to do this commercial. Do you want to be part of this? And she had already play tested the game a couple of times, and so she was like, heck yeah, I totally want to be part of this. And then the other one there is our friend Maddie Pallant. She was another friend. She had never really acted on film before, but I think she was great. She did all of her own costuming. Sophia Miller is my partner, by the way. I don't know if that's important. Yeah, and we went over to a friend's house because they had that whole setup that looked very 80s to me. I brought everyone pizza.
So they did it for the pizza.
They did it largely for the pizza and because a couple of them really wanted to help. They'd already played before and have played since. We actually have an ongoing adventure with a couple of them that involves them in Las Vegas, and I believe where we left off now, they are in a hotel run by a charmed individual that's another person like them who's cheated death and has magical powers. And they might be trying to stop a stage magician who makes monsters. I don't know if they'll go for it.
Oh boy, well, I guess we'll find out, or maybe we will, maybe we won't. But that's awesome. And maybe they've forgotten about pizza, like you forgot about video games.
Maybe. I hope they did. I really just hope this game brings people the happiness that first session brought me.
So, when it comes to nightlife, what makes your game pop as when my audience should go check out the Kickstarter page? And if they like what they see or what they've heard tonight, why should they back it?
If you've ever played a D&D game or a Dark Heresy game or a Burning Wheel game or whatever, a game where you were really excited about a very specific moment and you threw your dice down and you were really excited, you really wanted this to work out, and you rolled a 2, and then the DM, based on the rules in the game, had to tell you, I'm sorry it doesn't work out, then I think you ought to, I don't know about need to, I think you ought to donate to our Kickstarter, because this is a game where that 2 would have spun out into an entirely different wild situation that would have changed your entire adventure.
Okay, awesome. And will they be able to find out more about the game as you go through the campaign? There's a short campaign. There's less than 2 weeks to go, but will they find out more about play and anything else? Will there be updates about the game?
There will absolutely be updates. I'm planning a update about combat tomorrow, and later on this week I'm planning to do an update on magic. But if there are any things you want to know about the game that I haven't covered, I'm an open book. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Patrick Fitzsimmons. I've also got a Facebook page, Nightlife Tabletop. And you can message me. I usually respond very quickly. If I take more than an hour, I apologize. But
Awesome. And they are going to go ahead and they back Nightlife tabletop game. What can they get?
I'm a relatively small operation. It's just me and a team of two others who have been doing this. Sophia Miller, who I mentioned, and my friend Andrew Danielson, who has who's been editing and who has been playtesting and who's been doing research. So there, I can't give you a lot of things that are worth a lot of money, but I can give you all of my effort and time. So if you donate $15, you'll get a thank you letter from me. If you don't, or you'll get a copy of the rulebook. If you donate 20, I'll send you a thank you letter, and I will look at every single person and try to give everyone their own personalized thank you letter. If you donate $100, I'll make an entire adventure based off of you. That's going to be, and your hometown, and that's going to be over the internet and free, so you'll be immortalized in a sense. And I'll have my ear to the ground about the community every step of the way.
Awesome. And it looks like it's coming in PDF format. Am I right?
Yes, it is. I originally wanted to have it in book format, and I got in contact with a couple of publishers, and they charged a lot. So I got in touch with a couple of independent publishers, and they charged less, but not as little as I'd like. So right now it's going to be on PDF. Depending on how things go, I'd love to see it in softcover color form. And who knows, maybe someday hardcover color form.
Well, there you go. Awesome. So, again, you said they can keep up with you via, you have a Nightlife Facebook page?
I have a Facebook page. I've got the Kickstarter itself. You can go onto my personal Facebook page even if you want. And really cruise over to the Facebook, to either of them, because it's covered in all of the art for this project made by Christine Cordy. She's this really incredible artist out in California.
Awesome. And if you go ahead and get me the links, I'll make sure that I leave those in the show notes so they can go ahead and easily find out how to contact you if they have any questions. Yeah, I love the art, and especially I love the infomercial. And anybody listening, go ahead and definitely check out Nightlife, especially if you want any tie to the 1900s, or if you want a game to be immortalized on the internet and have your hometown immortalized in the Nightlife game. It just sounds really cool and awesome, Patrick, and I appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief to tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. I appreciate it. Wow, that was exciting to be able to talk to someone from the 1900s, as my kids would say. I'm excited to see where his game will take us. If you liked it, show a little love to him and his project by backing Nightlife before Tuesday, the 2nd of April. You know what else I'm excited for? To see what's on Kickstarter. Hit it, Princess Leaf.
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
Wow, Dungeons of Infinity is so close to being funded, you could be the one that pushes it over the threshold. Dungeons of Infinity is a board game for 1 to 5 players. It features random dungeon creation, solo, co-op, competitive, or story mode. Want to hear what we thought of it? You should go see what I thought along with Princess and Barbarian Leaf by checking out Family Fun Day Friday episode 18, Archon and Dungeons of Infinity, both on Kickstarter. We'll leave our link to the episode on BGG in the show notes. Go give it a listen and make sure you back Dungeons of Infinity before this Thursday, the 21st of March, early in the morning, so don't dilly-dally. I'm a big fan of tableau building games, like Machi Koro and Valeria Card Kingdoms, so I was excited to see Valeria Card Kingdoms Crimson Seas on Kickstarter. They're bringing us not 1, not 2, but 3 products in this Kickstarter campaign. Crimson Seas, an expansion to Valeria Card Kingdoms. Ward Towers, a Valeria Card Kingdom expansion pack. And Corsairs of Valeria, a standalone dice game. Watch for a review from myself and Wizard Leaf once he gets feeling better, and back their campaign before Tuesday the 26th of March, so you don't miss out on the fun. Have you heard or seen Fuzzy Mage Fight? It's a card game for 2 to 6 players. play as fuzzy mages and unique abilities, fighting to become the most magical fuzzy mage ever. Their campaign funded in 6 hours. In case you missed it, I sat down with a couple of the creators. You should go listen to that. It's easily found by going to their campaign page and checking out the update entitled Huge Update. Lynn and Yesh, a new 35k stretch goal, and so much more. It's at the very bottom. Speaking of at the very bottom, on that link to my interview at the very bottom is also a giveaway they're doing with the Giveaway Geek. And you are already going to get extra entries by subscribing to the podcast, so go give it a listen and enter. Then back their campaign before Wednesday the 27th of March. Imagine if Clue was thrown into a hobby board game consisting of cards that had cool mechanics in it which you couldn't see all of your cards but your friends could. And you were trying to thwart the murderer before the actual crime went down. If you did this, you'd probably have a note for murder, a race against time to prevent a crime set in the world of Sherlock Holmes, deduce the criminal, their weapon, and the planned location of the murder before it occurs. Want to know more? Go give my interview with Michael, the publisher, a listen in their update entitled Player Abilities. Either way, back at before Thursday the 11th of April. Well, Sither Gaming went ahead and launched Overbattle the All War yesterday morning. It seems to be off to a pretty good start. Overbattle the All War Advantage, Battle and Conquest, the ABCs of sci-fi war. As you fight and unite under constant change, are you a friend or hiding as a foe? Want to bring home this premium experience? Well, don't forget to tune in to my interview airing tomorrow, as well as making sure you back it before Saturday the 20th of April. Spirits of Carter Mansion, from my friend from the Down Under, Australia, is on Kickstarter. Go watch their Kickstarter video. It gave me the nostalgia of watching an old horror flick on a very used VHS tape. It was awesome. Spirits of Carter Mansion is a haunted house social deduction game where players are the spirits that haunt the mansion. Plus, it's only $25. If our cards align right, I will have Keith on the show next week to talk more about it. Go back it before Monday, the 1st of April, and tell him Game Relief sent you. Liked any of those games? Click the links and back them to show them and us a little love. Want to show us a little more love? Well, don't forget to check out and back our Kickstarter either then. It'll be there for your backing pleasure through Monday, the 1st of April. Now it's come to our least favorite time and your least favorite time as well. Time for us to get on with our lives and you to get on with yours. But in the meantime, I hope you'll go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into Geekful by sharing this podcast with them. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.